A minute left.
That's what I was thinking too. It's all right.
Don't apologize. You know the drill by now. Okay, ready?
Shit. Is that too loud? Sorry. I do too, yes. Yeah. I'm glad to hear you say that. I do.
Here's a compliment or an insult. Capital. Why isn't Jeff Hudson an administrator? I go, he would never do that. And then he wanted to be a peer evaluator. I'm like, hey, son of a bitch, just calm down. So. going well. I mean, people look, their faces tell me how it's going. Okay.
Yeah. So, Kathy just comes over to me. The guy in the tan shirt with glasses. He's a downtown administrator, human resources, pretty good guy. He goes to Kathy, and she comes to me and she goes, "How come Jeff Hudson's not an administrator?" I know, right? Here's the answer. Kathy said he wouldn't do that in a million years.
Anything else? Yes, go ahead.
We talked about how sometimes proficiency depends on who you are committed.
Say more about that.
Like the students that you get each year. You're not going to be the same level of proficient every year because each year you get a different group of students and your needs need to change based on that group.
Boy, isn't that the real problem? My mother said to me all the time, why do you have to work so much? I mean, how long have you been teaching? But you just and people who don't teach it's not as simple. It changes every year. It changes every year, right? So proficiency based on who's sitting in front of you, right? Okay, good. Thank you. Anything else that we can? Anybody want to? Go ahead.
I would like to piggyback off what you said and say that proficiency is a sliding scale where it's a system of gauging one's level of expertise as a skill is developed.
And I swear I did not plan it. And it does tie in nicely with the next one. I won't mention that he is a teacher and a colleague. And no, I swear I did not ask him to say that. But he said that having the same grades and that. So that does segue nicely into the next part of the lesson. So what we're going to look at is this idea that proficiency is a scale. And I want to share with you a personal story. When I ask my kids this question, when I ask my students the same question, they do the same thing. They do a quick write, what is proficiency? And I get a lot of different answers. And one of them, you know, does come up like, well, you know, I asked them, I said, well, when are you proficient at something? Like, let's take riding a bike or whatever. And then one day, the idea of swimming came up. And I said to them, well, what is a proficient swimmer? If I get into the water and I don't drown, am I proficient? Right? I mean, aren't I a proficient swimmer if I don't drown? Sure. And then the next thing is, well, let's talk about Michael Phelps. I mean, is he a proficient swimmer as well? Yes, of course. And he has, you know, how many gold medals? So that's kind of the analogy that I use with my students as well. We can get in the water and not drown and be proficient. We can also be Michael Phelps and be proficient. Michael Phelps still continues to try to improve, right? He's not fine. So that's another way that look at it that kind of came about accidentally in my own classroom this year when I enacted this lesson. So if you look on your tables, each table should have each table should have a descriptor on it, and there's a variety of colors out there. And they range, and you can also see the descriptors around the room as well. So they range from novice low all the way around. They go through intermediate and all the way to advanced low. And they're all put there randomly. And what I'm going to do is, do we have paper out to
It's getting, mostly, yes.
Mostly. Jeff is working on getting butcher paper out to each of you. Here's what you guys are going to come up with a shared writing. It might be better where you write in two groups of three, but you can share the same descriptor, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a writing prompt. Can you get that for me? Now, before you pay mind to the writing prompt, what I want to ask you to do is take 30 seconds with your table, find your descriptor on your card, and read through that descriptor, and then I'll explain the writing prompt. Okay? So take a look at your descriptor on your paper and read it.
Yes, would you mind here? Every table should have one. I've already put...
Every table here, so we're not
Correct.
moving it.
Correct. Here's your... Thank you.
Yes. All right, now hold on just a second. So don't start writing yet. We are still on getting material now. If I could have everyone's attention real quick. Okay, so everyone should have had the opportunity to look at your descriptor. I've got Jonathan and Katrina coming around getting markers. So you should be getting your supplies. So, next thing that you're going to do is everybody gets the same writing prompt. And I know I have a question. Everybody's going to have the same writing prompt. And here it is up on the screen. So it says, imagine an alien from outer space has been living with you. This is easier for some of you maybe than others. You want to take your alien to the surface. If your alien is from outer space, has no idea what the surface is. Your job is to write, to explain to your alien what the surface is. The constraint is your level of proficiency. So some of you will see that you are at novice low, where you have to write like a preschooler. All the way through advanced mode, where you have a little bit more language that you're working on. You're including an idiomatic expression. You have a lot of language that you need to produce. Okay? Now, there was a question back here.
You got it?
No? I thought I had a question. You're good? Okay. All right, is there anything that I can say to clarify that task? Good? Yes? 10 minutes? So we'll
Do they need to?
I knew that would be clunky.
That's okay. It's totally fine. It was clunky only because they were figuring it out, not because they were planning lunch. So it's totally fine.
And then the fact got all pissy with me because I didn't address their need for a fucking piece of paper right then. I was like, just hold on, let me give this thought. And then I said, did you have a question? She was like, never mind. I'm like, all right. Can you stand up here and do this? All right, sorry. That was nice. All right, so I need to find, I can't be out here. I need this set to 10. Describe it.
Yeah.
And I need to find that slope. That's awesome. That's good. That's perfect. We were writing that way anyways.
Good.
I saw this early on. That has nothing to do with why my writing is like this.
Because I'm showing you what, whenever I service my
Hey, I told you.
Yeah, I got it. I just told it. So sold. I don't care what happens the rest of the day.
Hey, you know what? If you hadn't knelt down there, I would have totally. When he said, "I don't want to be negative," then don't was on the. I was going to sand both.
He was like, "What does this have to do with the
I heard
game?"
him. I heard him.
This looks like a normal speech day.
That's awesome. Is it? Thank you. Yeah, yes. Oops, I'm sorry. If you repeat this, I'll deny it, but this is a student-centered, literacy-based lesson with 90 or 80 people. Like, so class size doesn't matter, right? We can do it with 80 or I can do it with 10.
Thank you
Oh,
so much
Mark.
for doing this and
Oh,
all
yeah.
that you have been doing, Jeff. I walked in this room and I was blown away.
Oh, well, that's a
Blown
huge
away.
compliment. Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Oh, you
and,
bet.
You ever thought about being an administrator?
No,
Peer
you
evaluator?
can't. Well, we'll have to talk money.
But he's not gonna know what a trapeze artist is.
I don't think they. I know.
I got a time issue here.
Well, it's a good one though. I don't think they need as much as they.
I don't know.
All right, all right.
We're writing all our teachers, so we're writing on a separate piece of paper and then go. Now, do I want to go ahead and tell people to put them up as they finish, right?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to. You guys did an awesome job.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
So as you finish, you can see some people are displaying there, so whenever you get that
Yes. They're not sticking. All right. No, it's the textured wall. When you guys are done, yours goes right there. And it should stick on the door okay. And I'll hang it up for you when you're ready. Nice.
We're probably too intelligent for
That's okay. That's okay. That's perfect. Let's,
Groups working?
here's what I would say. Let's just make sure that we get something on everyone, even if they're not
Well,
done.
because the advanced low is taking over, right? Because they have more language to write.
Yeah.
But they're almost okay. And if they have a little bit of downtime, we're okay on time.
Okay, so it looks like advanced low. You guys are still working.
Have them put up what they have.
No, but I don't want to do that because that will ruin
That's
the whole.
all right. All right.
Right? Make us one that.
Oh, we are. I'm just worried about all the tables that aren't doing anything are going to be harder to get back.
They're teachers. They'll bullshit for a while. What can I do?
Have them put up what they have.
But then if it's not all the language, then then noticing, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
No, you don't believe me. I can tell by the
You're right. No, you're fine. They'll fill it. You're fine. Totally fine.
They're almost done. So if I can get one advanced.
That's what I was. Yes, that's what I suggested before. Yes.
That's not the language.
Hey, Les. We still have to debrief, right? And look where we are there. Well, we are. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Hey, remember that wisecrack I made him about class size? It's about wheels are about to fall off of that. Hey,
stick that on there. Perfect. Okay.
So come here. Try to. So here's what, like, orchestrate the gallery walk somehow. Like I would say, like just have them go around the room, kind of like a parade. It's not a race, but don't linger too long so that we can get every, and maybe just give them a couple of minutes, and if they don't get them all, they don't get
They
them.
won't, and that's what I'm going to say. Be mindful to try to one that was
Right.
far away and one was close. And that's, should I go ahead and
Yeah, I would.
okay.
All right, we're gonna go ahead. I think a few groups are just now finishing up.
Thank you.
Obviously, the higher level that you had more language to produce, and that's always a challenge for me to kind of manage my own class. Is what happens next. So the next thing that we're gonna do is you now are probably a pretty good expert on your particular level because you had to write to it. So now we kind of want to take this is the gallery walk, and we will take a walk around the room. If you look on your table, you should have, I'm going to borrow these, you should have the bigger squared Post-it notes. I'm going to ask that each person take a few of those, and as you walk around, and you want to be a little bit deliberate about this. It starts novice low here, and it does go around clockwise, is that right? Yeah, okay. And then intermediate high is stuck over here on this door, okay? So there was no place else for me to go there, okay? And then it finishes up with advanced low there. There's a few things that I want you to do. I want you to take some noticings as you read through. You probably won't get to all of them. We're a big group. We don't have a whole lot of time for that, right?
Well, here's a what if. Given the size of the room and given the difficulty in moving around, what if they send out maybe 1 or 2 emissaries from the table instead of everybody?
Okay, that's a good idea. All right, yeah, I like that. Thank you. All right. So you can nominate who that person is.
Sorry.
Thanks. All right, so now that you've done that, one more piece of instruction I'm going to ask you to do. Take your Post-it notes, and you're going to make a noticing. Notice a few things. This is important, because you're not going to be able to notice about every single level, perhaps. But I want you to find one that it was far away from your writing. So if you were novice mid, you might jump to intermediate mid or even advanced low, okay, something like that. So find one that is far away from where you wrote, and then find one that is the next level up or next level below where you wrote. And then make some noticings about the language, write those right on the Post-it note, and stick those Post-it notes on the actual butcher paper. So I noticed that this level uses these words. Do we want to do wonderings or just noticing? I think noticing will work. So anything that you notice about the differences in language, can I clarify that in any way? Anything else I can say about that? Everybody knows what to do? All right, go.
everybody's
know.
staring at me.
I know.
This Swivl right here, that
Grumpy Gus?
and the woman with the short gray hair, who is she?
God, she looks familiar, but I don't know her name. She's I don't know. Ask Ricky Bobby, he'll know. He's sitting with her.
She's a total fucking bitch.
Oh, good. Well, and that follows because she's sitting with.
I mean, she just looks at me like the whole day long, and I'm just like, you know what? I imagine you're a star.
Right.
You care about your time. You find it.
I know, and we're gonna go.
I know, and we haven't debriefed yet. I know.
I know, that's fine. In time.
And in terms of the overall agenda of the day, we're like 15 minutes ahead.
Okay.
So Kat, well, it's funny. Well, you've met Kathy. You know how she can be. And so we sat her down and said, well, we were very clear. You need to be done by 8:30.
I just went to a conference with my dean. She went for 2 minutes and she took 5. And my colleague, I gave her 1 minute and she took 3. We only had 8. I get it. Question.
Oh. Yes.
With the variety of...
Oh, we'll go find you some candy. Yeah. I'm on it. I'm on it. Yes.
Perfectly is to share out what you noticed, but that's going to surface itself in a quick write.
I think it will.
Talk to me about time.
Well, we're fine. We're 15 minutes ahead, so that time
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
So I shouldn't feel stressed about
No,
that.
you should not feel stressed about that.
So when they get back,
Have them just turn and talk first, and then the final quick write.
and then how do I close that and bring it? What do we? So I'm gonna say. So now what? What did you write?
Yeah. Just pose the quick write prompt. I'm curious. What do you now know about proficiency that you didn't before? And you can get 4 or 5 tables to report out.
After the writing.
Yeah. Does that work? That doesn't
When they
look.
come back, they talk, then they write?
Or just write. Either way.
Okay, I think just write.
Okay. Yep.
$90.
Yes.
So when we get done, and they're going to be talking about this lesson, are they
Yes.
going to be doing any kind of reflecting on, if they were the administrator, what things that she did? Are they going to connect it?
Yes.
Plenty of post-it notes up, right?
Okay, it looks like there's quite a few notices. So if you want to take the last one, finish your final thoughts, stick it up on the picture paper, and then we'll come back to our seats.
Sorry, Dad. Sorry, Trey. Hey, give everybody back together, do a final bit of writing and about what we noticed.
Okay.
That- We got people at 10:25. Yes.
One thing that I noticed was some people might not know
The chronology of it.
well, what one person interprets is a different than what another person.
That's kind of the point. I think that's what we're going to do right now. Yes.
Give me a job to do. I think from now on, you'll come to every hymn that I do. Can't wait.
I got it.
So now hopefully you've had a chance to get around to one or two writings for the descriptors and make some noticing. So what I'm going to ask you to do is go back to the final spread that we have for you today. And that is after you've done the gallery walk and you've looked at writing that is different than your own. This is something I ask my students to do. You want to become aware of the levels of proficiency. So now that you've had the opportunity to take a look, is on paper, do a quick write, answering the question, what do you now know about proficiency that you didn't before? How perhaps has your thinking changed from the initial question of what is proficiency? What noticings did you have? And if you could just jot those down on paper for me, that would be awesome. All right, great.
No, no,
Okay,
yeah.
go.
I thought we had that on there, but we
We
don't.
don't have that on there. And remember, with quick writes, as long as you're getting words on paper, you're doing it right, and then you have the opportunity to share with your table in just a second. Right?
We have on our agenda PILA at 10:25, and we haven't done the 3x2 debrief, so we're back kind of on time. It's fine.
So then everybody's going to share out? Yes or no? I have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
tie
yeah,
a
yeah.
knot in the lesson.
Oh yeah. Not everybody though. But yes, they have to share out. The quick.
Am I doing pair, or am I just doing whole group because of time?
I think whole group. I think they've done it enough that we can. And again.
Not everybody can write because not everybody got it.
That's true.
It's up to each individual teacher to
That's all right.
establish parameters. Right, I was just going to say that.
You are finished writing?
Right, exactly.
I've got one last job for you to do as part of our lesson. So we can kind of make sense of what just happened here. So if I could get, and we're watching our time, so if I could get just a few of you to volunteer and offer what you wrote.
Yeah, maybe even less.
So anything that you said or anything that you wrote
And it's okay.
as part of our
Get three, right? However many they get.
in that lesson, what do we now know about proficiency, or what do we think about proficiency now? Anyone? Yes, go ahead. Right, so not everybody in the room would be at the same place at the same time on the same day, right? Okay, yeah, exactly, thank you. Anything else? Yes, go ahead.
Even non-proficient writing can be creative and imaginative and beautiful and also fun to use in an
Right, very good, thank you. I'm so glad that you said that, because, I mean, isn't Novice Low like the funnest one to read? I mean, you know, so we get pictures and we know what they're trying to say, even though it is Novice Low, and that doesn't make it wrong. It just is what it is, and it's still beautiful and creative. So I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. Yes.
I was going to say it's knowing what is expected and doing it. Before we didn't have something to go from. This has a whole list of things that we need to have in our paragraphs, and that helps focus us on where we need to go with our writing.
And you have the trickiest one, right? You were at Advanced Low.
Yeah.
The Advanced Low group, every time I came around, they were a little cranky with me on that one. An idiomatic expression. I could throw you one there. I gave you one that you could use. But yeah, that is tricky. So, and when I wrote those, the thing about those descriptors is they came from ACTFL, which is the American Council of Teachers of Foreign Language. And when you look up the proficiency descriptors, they are this awful paragraph of language that even as a language teacher, I read them and I don't understand them at all. So I have to make them accessible to my students so they could understand what proficiency is. If I throw that document at my kids, they're not going to know what that is. They're not going to know what that looks like. And it was my job to make it accessible. So I'm glad that worked for both of us. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah, Robin. What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, like low level is I saw this, I do this, I do that. You have to hire, and we're having, you will do this, you will do this.
Right. higher was, I think, advanced. Oh, you guys had to do 3 different sentences, right? So, and that is very, very simple. It is what a natural language learner would do, right? Okay, thank you. Okay, all right, so I think that will conclude my portion of the lesson. So thank you for playing along, and I'm going to turn it over to Jordy, right? Okay, go.
Okay, I'm just going to help facilitate this last part really quickly. And you have this sheet of 3x2. It's the back of the one we used before. Turn it over the other way. So really quickly, in less than a minute, what you're going to do, when we do imps here in our lab, we do this. We just make some noticings about what we've done. And so in this first box over here, you're going to have 60 seconds to make 3 noticings. And if you could try and not do judgment. So don't say, I liked when Leslie did this. I liked when she did that. I didn't like this. Try and just make them noticing. I noticed she did this. I noticed she did that. We saw happen, okay? And so try and get 3. If you don't get 3, that's fine. But 60 seconds, really quickly, re-noticing.
About what happened in the lesson.
Yeah, sorry. For Leslie.
Yes, for the lesson, yes.
For Leslie's portion.
Connect the fact that you're asking for non-judgment is the same way as we're trying to do in this, and where it's asking for evidence, what we hear, what we see, what we read.
Yep. Yep, I'll do. I got you. I'll help you.
About 15 seconds. If you don't get 3, don't worry. Just a couple things you noticed that happened. Okay. Pause on those, please. When we do in a lab, we always have a pre-brief where we allow the lead teacher and their student partners to tell us about what we're going to do. We have the lesson, and then we allow them to have a post brief.
Debrief.
Debrief, not post brief. A debrief, where we allow them to reflect on what happened. And so Leslie and Jeff are going to do that now, really quickly.
Thank you, Jordy. The hardest part about what you all just did in that top box is suspending judgment. That's very hard. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but I'd be willing to bet that if you go back and look at what you just jotted down, there are things like that was cool when, or that was good when, or that was clumsy when, right? Those are all evaluations or judgments, and it's really hard to just notice. Just what did I hear? What did I be very literal? I noticed there were Post-it notes on the table, right? I noticed Leslie walked around the room. I heard her say. It's very difficult to do, right? And so as we continue through this process, kind of be mindful of that and catch yourself. I'm going to mention something that I learned from Phyllis a couple of weeks ago. She says we were talking about this process and debriefing, and when, for example, when an administrator comes into my classroom, if they start with an evaluation, if they start knowing, oh, Leslie's a good teacher, then they're almost blinded to what happens in the class because they're going to cherry pick evidence that fits that evaluation, right? So if you suspend that evaluation first and just gather evidence, then the evaluation is much truer and grounded in what you actually observed or actually noticed. Right? So I wanted to say that before we debriefed. Okay? And that middle box there, again, don't transcribe our conversation necessarily, but if we say anything that strikes you as interesting, that middle box that says notes to debrief is a good place to capture that. Okay? So, glad that's over?
Yeah, I am really glad that's over. I've never done that for 80 people.
Right?
Before, so yeah, that was a challenge. I can sleep now.
So you had... So you had said when we started, during the pre-brief, that you were really interested in this idea of proficiency and helping your students understand what that looks like, and that it's a continuum, not a point, right? How do you feel that went with these folks?
I think it went very well. I feel like this is a lesson I've done with my students before, and like I said, I want to try it again. I keep refining it, I keep tweaking it, and that's where InnoLab helps me. But you know, I'm never quite happy with the way that it goes. But today I felt like it went smoothly, despite the space and the huge numbers and all. I mean, you know, usually I do this for about a less than, you know, a smaller group of students. So despite those parameters, it went well. And I think and the participants wouldn't know this, but I did tweak the descriptors a little bit from the last time I did this. I did this at an InnoLab in the fall, and then I just did it a few weeks ago with my students, and I still wasn't happy with it. So I knew I was guessing that perhaps the descriptors were a problem, and I feel like that went well, especially at novice low. That's usually the group that I have to jump to because they're trying too hard. And today I went over and they were like, oh, we got this, no problem. So I'm hoping maybe it's the descriptors or my, room full of geniuses.
All right. Well, that's interesting. So I heard you say it went well, and I was going to push you to say how you knew that. And
Wasn't going to get away with that.
no, you weren't. But you did kind of answer it, right? You had said that you had made adjustments to the language of the descriptors, and you saw evidence of a much richer response that you're attributing to that adjustment you made, having taught the lesson once before, right?
And another thing that I think that went well is, and I'll be interested later on to get around to all the Post-it notes, because of space I couldn't. In my own classroom I would have been able to really look at all the noticings. I haven't had that chance yet, but the few that I saw were exactly what I was hoping would happen. I noticed that there are more descriptions here. I noticed that there's a personal story. I noticed all of these things. So the noticings that I saw were on target for what I was hoping for.
That's interesting that you say that. So there are, as the walls fall down around us, there are layers of, to use an admin word here, there are layers of data that you've collected. One is the language that they wrote on the chart paper, but two is the sophistication of the noticings that they made as they went around those Post-it notes that you've gathered.
Right, which tells me I did, as I reflect on that, as part of this piece, that's something that I need to reflect on. What did I say that made that work? How did that surface itself?
You had mentioned 4 big pieces, and we saw those: the quick write, the group write, to the prompt, gallery walk, and a final. I have one question about that. You already mentioned the size, and I sabotaged you a little bit by having only 1 or 2 people go up, which meant not everybody could do the last quick write. So pedagogically, you had said you were interested in that gallery walk. I wonder if a gallery in a group this big, did that still work for you, or would you rethink that next time, or?
I think it still worked. I wish we could have gotten everybody up and out of their seats so they could look, because then when it came time to write, it was, oh wait, not everybody had gotten up. So that was a little bit of a glitch in my lesson, and I will totally blame you for that. But I do know, as I reflect on that, I'm like, well, I know that I have to be mindful of, I may only have 30 kids in a room, but the room is a lot smaller, so size is still an issue. So I would try it again, but maybe do half get up, and then the other half, but I was concerned about time. So, and time and space are constraints that all teachers work under that we can't always fix. So it's still something I'll reflect on.
One last question. I asked you what you hoped they take away, and you had mentioned that you would hope they were thinking about proficiency in their own context. You were also hoping they'd be able to take something like a gallery walk back to their space. I'm curious what you're taking away from having led this.
That's a loaded question. I'm taking away that, I'm taking away that I believe when you ask a room full of adults to play along and participate, that they will. And I heard laughter, and I heard I saw some very funny stories that surfaced, out as there was a middle table, there was something about a dancing bear or something, and there was laughter there. And those sort of things. So I'm taking away that this can be done with a room full of adults. And then I'm also taking away, I did hear a few conversations where, and right here, Mrs. Weber, right? Yes. She talked about art and how there's proficiency within projects. And so I saw evidence of that thought process taking place.
Proficiency in different contexts.
Proficiency in different contexts. So that's a win there for me.
Nice. Very good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, so one more time on our 3x2 sheet, we're going to spend 60 more seconds doing 3 more noticings. They can be noticings based on the debrief. They can be noticings thinking back to the lesson, but 3 more noticings really quickly. Go.
Do we take a break first?
10 seconds. You don't have to have 3, but if you could just wrap up whatever thought you're on. Okay. If you could now, in your group, you can either share your noticings with your partner, or if you want to do a quick around your table, everyone do a noticing and share with the table. But just take maybe 40 seconds really quickly, share something you noticed with someone.
They learn. What's that? Yes. I can help you. Oh, good. Good.
Okay, if we could really quickly, before we're going to take a break really quick, but before that, if any of our groups want to share out things they noticed, that would be awesome for Leslie to be able to hear just things that went on that you noticed today.
Of course, Leslie's over there. Yeah, go.
Well, one thing that I said about that business out there was the summarization of what her expectations were. She gave out the direction of what it is that she wanted us to do, and then she summarized it at the end of it. And I think that gives clarification to the group.
Yeah, we knew what was expected of us. Very good. Children.
Kept to a strict time.
Kept to a strict time.
How do you know that?
I heard the timer.
Okay.
Okay.
I noticed that she had everybody kind of explain or elaborate on answers when she wasn't sure where we were going with them. So she kind of made us make like vague answers go into more detail just to see what we were thinking and everything.
Can I ask you I don't know how I do that. Can you tell me? Because that's something I don't know I'm doing in my own classroom. Right now.
You can get better understanding of social media.
Okay, well thank you. I appreciate you saying I do, because that's not something I normally notice about my own instruction. So thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah.
I like the hands-on, if you go back to my class, you know, when we teach preschool, it's still hard, so I think it helps us to think of things that are concrete, so we can go back and reflect on, because I miss a lot of the things that they say, and you can't write it all the time.
And if I could speak to that too, I think that ties in nicely with why we're doing this. Again, if I could bring you back to my quick write, this is what I need to do more of in my classroom. And if I don't start with the students, and if I don't get those noticings and reflections, I don't know what the next step is, right? And that's really what I want to continue to explore. So it ties right back into my professional goal, has basically surfaced right on the walls of the room.
Very nice.
I noticed that she's happy with what she did, and that shows that she is a good teacher and wanting to know what she is trying to get kids to learn.
And
that makes the kids learn.
absolutely. How do you know she's happy about it? Okay. Nice.
She's confident. That's how she is.
And to piggyback on Julie's comment, she did mention her challenges, but she didn't make those excuses. So I think that's important too. Again, she talked about what went well, what didn't work, but she didn't make it an excuse as to why, she couldn't perform or she couldn't perform.
Well, and I noticed, even when things were clumsy or falling off the wall or whatever, it wasn't the end of the world, right? Somebody grabbed the tape and somebody, we got through, right? Yeah. Very good. Any others? Yeah.
I noticed that as she discussed things and if she was willing to share things she thought was not successful, the fact that she did think was successful.
For sure. Yeah. And that's, what do I want to say about that? That's really hard to do. I mean, like, so I think back to evaluations I've had early in my career when I invited a principal into I'd have peed down my leg if something went wrong, right? I picked the thing that I knew I was good at, and that's what I was going to show them, right? So to invite somebody in and say, you know, I'm still figuring this out. Here's what I'm going to try. Help me look at it. There's a vulnerability, and I need to trust the thinking part. I need to trust the administrator that's sitting in that chair that this is okay for me to do, and I'm not going to get dinged at the end because stuff fell off the wall while I was trying to do it, right? Yeah.
I noticed that throughout the process, even with the assessment going on all the time, through the conversations and the inquiries and how you think that all that is, through specific transitions and words, there's a lot of assessment and adjustment. She even reported out that she adjusted. Adjustment comes from formative assessments that's not necessarily on quiz or a piece of paper, but she has this vision in her mind of where she wants to go. She's okay with not all of this happens, but she has certain things that she wants to see happening. And if it's not going that way, it's the most important part on adjusting. So I'm not going forward because I'm going to miss out on the most important part. So a lot of assessment going on. And just the culture of relationship within the lesson, not just something.
Yeah, go, please.
I was thinking too, I kind of was under the impression that when we're evaluating, you definitely want to bring the person that is evaluating you into the picture. And I don't know if she ever said anything like, you know, I don't like how that worked. Do you have any suggestions? Is that a possibility that you're bringing that person in so
Sure.
they're part of it?
So, yes, let me back up here a minute. And then I know people need a break, so I'm going to go fast here. Sorry, don't look at that if it makes you dizzy. Sorry. All right. So, to that end, and then we're going to take a break. And because Kathy and Brenda and others have framed this, and we had argued that we wanted to attend, we were going to do all this, but we wanted to focus on the idea of reflection and of surfacing goals. My job as a thinking partner, or my job as an administrator observing a teacher, is to be an empath there. I heard you say, I heard you say, I heard you say, could you tell me more about? Not, well, I'd have done it this way, right? Or, okay. After the lesson's all done, she's enacted it. We're debriefing it now. Now here's an opportunity for and again that trust has to be there. Now is a conversation for, well, I wonder what would happen if you only had a few people get up, or I wonder what would happen if you had half the room do the gallery walk and the other half observe it. And again, I want to be real careful with my language here. It's not that was bad or wrong or I'd have. It's, I wonder what would happen if you had tried it this way. And there's a space in that, and everyone, all of us will have that post-observation opportunity to have a conversation with someone who's been in the room, watched that lesson unfold. Now we can have that conversation about, geez, I wonder next time you do that, what could you try, right? Does that hit that question? Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and take 15, how about? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Hey.
So the next Pi Day recipient, I don't know if they're Pi, but you know, a cookie related to Pi. Cheryl,
Yeah, 15, take 15. I'll put the timer on.